Alright, so we're checking out the GoPro Hero 11 Black Mini in this video. I posted an unboxing on my Instagram. I'll link that in the video description if you want to see that. I had a lot of questions about this camera, and I'm going to answer a few of those here. I might do some separate videos later. We'll see how things go. But mainly in this video, I want to cover what is good about this basically mini version of the Hero 11, and whether or not this is something you would want to upgrade to. I'm assuming that a lot of you come from different kinds of cameras, and as you can see behind me here, I've got a whole bunch of other cameras that I've been using as well, and I'll go into some brief comparisons that might help you in terms of your buying decision. This is not going to be an in-depth video on all these cameras. This would be like a 5-hour video. I'm going to try and make things as concise as possible without a whole lot of rambling. But essentially, this is a smaller version of the Hero 11. And the obvious differences are no screens, so no back screen, no front screen. And you just have this large heatsink in the back. You do have these extra finger mounts on the Mini that you don't have on the full size, as well as the ones on the bottom as well. And yes, these are removable. You need a T4 torque screw to remove these. The camera with the mounts on is my scale is like 132 grams, and then you take them off and the camera's about 118 grams. So you save about 14 grams of weight by taking those off, if you're wondering. But I think the first question I think people are going to ask is, well, what's different about the 11 versus the 10? And I think that's going to be a pretty long video if I actually cover all the important things about the 11 versus the 10. There's a lot of important differences, but I will just cover them in a very brief sort of an overview here as to what the difference is between the 11 and the 10, and if you're on the 10 or something older, why you would want to go to the 11 or the 11 Mini. So in a nutshell, the 11 comes with a different lens and a different sensor. So it's a 12mm lens instead of a 16mm lens on the Hero 10, so you get a wider field of view, and that's because it has a different sensor now. So it's got different lens and different sensors. So the sensor is an 8x7 sensor, so it's a larger sensor, and it's an 8x7 aspect ratio, whereas the Hero 10 is only 4x3. So you get 4x3 and 16x9 in this one, and then you get 16x9, 4x3, and 8x7 in the Hero 11. And part of the Hero 11's 8x7 sensor feature set is the HyperView form factor, or the field of view. So on the Hero 10 and previous cameras that had the 4.3 sensor, which is pretty much all of them, they would expand or stretch out the 4.3 aspect ratio video into something called SuperView, which is a 16x9 frame, and basically stretch out that 4x3 video into a 16x9 frame. Similar thing happens here with HyperView. It takes the 8x7 formatted video and stretches it out into a 16x9 video frame. So you get the full sensor in a 16x9 form factor, and it stretches it out in a similar way to SuperView, but it's just a wider field of view compared to SuperView. Now, a few other things to note is that in those particular or certain video modes like 4K 60 or 5.3K 30, certain field of views aren't available on the 10 versus the 11. Like for example, I think on 5.3K 60 you can get super view on the 11, but you can't on the 10. So I think you can only get wide on the 10. So some little differences like that. Obviously I'm missing a whole bunch of other features that are different between the two cameras. This is just basically a quick little run through on what the big differences are, and those are pretty much the major differences. The image quality is pretty much the same. You get the bit rate, of course, the 100 megabits, or in this case on the 11 it goes to 120 megabits on the higher resolutions. also, you get the 10-bit color on the 11, and you don't have that on the 10. So that's another big important feature. So if you do a lot of color grading, more professional video work, the 10-bit color does help in terms of giving you better quality image. But in terms of like the resolution, in terms of the bit rate, pretty similar to the 10. It's a slight upgrade, but for most people, it's not going to be too noticeable what the differences are between the 10 and 11, other than if you're doing a lot of heavy color grading in some tough situations, the 10-bit color is definitely going to be superior to the 8-bit color on the 10. And one last thing to note is that the 10 comes with the regular standard battery, and the 11 comes with the Enduro battery, which is better for cold weather situations. The dimensions of the camera are identical between the 10 and the 11, same front screen, etc. No differences in terms of the dimensions. I think the 11 is a couple grams heavier than the 10, but otherwise everything's the same. So all your accessories and stuff that you were using on the 10 will work on the 11 if you do upgrade from the 10 to the 11. So now that you know the differences between the 10 and 11, what do you need to know between the 11 and the 11 mini? Which one should you go for? And some people will say, well, they designed this for FPV, and that's actually, I don't believe that's true, because if it were really designed for FPV, I think it would have been lighter, and they would have probably gone something along the route with the Bones, where the battery could be removed and you could power it from the drone. This battery is not removable. It's actually the same Enduro battery technology that's in the 11, but it's a slightly smaller capacity. But in terms of like recording time, this thing is about the same as the 11 because there's no screens involved to power on. So the extra battery that's in the full-size 11 is actually going to power the screens. But yeah, in my opinion, I don't think this is specifically targeted to FPV, although there's definitely a lot of good features here that could be good for FPV. I think the main thing here for FPV is that it doesn't have any screens that could be broken. So I have seen tons of photos and stuff on Facebook and other social media where people have their Hero 10 or 11, and so many of them have broken back screens here. Obviously, they put these into like these 3D printed mounts, and you get a crash, and the camera's fine, it'll still work, but the screen ends up being cracked or broken and doesn't turn on, or it just looks pretty bad. And for the most part, I almost never use a screen in terms of like framing. It's something that, not really something that I would use for FPV. So the back screen is not really important to me. And that goes the same for the front screen because I don't do any really vlogging. So that, those kind of things, those kind of features are probably not for FPV, but they kind of remove them from this camera, which actually saves a little bit of weight. And it's just one less thing to end up being broken. So if you crash, you might dent the heatsink here in the back here, but really the only things that can break here are this replaceable glass lens here in the front. This is actually a lens protector. The actual lens is behind this, and this is actually removable, so you can put on your ND filters, etc., just like on the full-size one. This little screen could possibly break, but you're going to probably take these little finger mounts off and then slide this into some sort of a 3D printed mount. So in order to charge up the camera, there's a little door here. Lift this up here. It is waterproof, of course, like the full size. Hero 11, you get your micro SD card slot and your USB-C for charging and a data retrieval. And you only get two buttons here. You get this little power on button here and then this record button, and then you use these two similarly in the same way that the two buttons are used on the Session 5 to go through the menu settings. So you have this button here and this button here. One is to do like a selection through the menu, and then you can select your options with the record button. It works in a similar way on the Mini 11. Turn it on, just press the button here, and you get your different modes. So there's like this easy mode and pro mode. I usually just leave everything in the pro mode. You can change your settings here with the button, so you can press the button here, select your different video modes. So these have all the same video modes as the full-size Hero 11. And then your aspect ratio, get your resolution modes, different lens options, and then also frame rates. But something to note here is that this does not have any of the photo modes that the full-size Hero 11 has. They've removed that from the feature set for this camera. Not sure if they're going to add that back in later in a future firmware update, but for now that is not there. And there is no GPS in the 11 Mini as well. So if you happen to use the GPS feature in the full-size Hero 11, for those video overlays, for example, for like speed, then this camera does not have that. So as I showed you, you can change your settings with the buttons here, of course. What I would recommend is actually upgrading the firmware on here to the Labs firmware. That's what I'm using. So you can use the QR codes to actually put your settings into the app on your smartphone and then just point the QR code at your phone to set your settings. You can also use the Quick app from GoPro and connect to the phone wirelessly. So this is what the QR code app looks like. It's called QR Control. And you can go in here and you can select your different settings here, for example, the resolution, etc. You can even go in here and set your ProTune settings, 10-bit color, for example, high bit rate, all that. And then you get just QR code here. So all you have to do is once you've installed the Labs firmware, just turn on the camera and then you just point it at the QR code. Get a little check mark there. And then the settings are in the camera. That's actually what I prefer to do. Actually, I use this the Labs firmware for all my GoPros. It's just a lot faster and easier. Of course, you can use the Quick app and then connect to the camera wirelessly through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. But I feel like that is a lot slower. It's not as quick for me. You can do that, of course. The other benefit of using the Quick app is that you can use your smartphone to see the live feed from the camera. So if you do need to see the live feed for framing, for example, you can do that using the Quick app, but that's something that I almost never use. Anyway, so for me, I think the main benefits of this camera are the fact that I'm not going to have any screens to break. It does weigh roughly 20 grams less than the full-size Hero 11. I don't care about the photo modes. One of the things I do like about this form factor is that it is narrower in profile. So on a drone, for example, this is going to cause less drag compared to the full-size camera. For a lot of people that may not make any difference whatsoever. The thing is, like, we have a lot of options now, right? So you have this camera, you got the full-size 11, you have the older cameras, the 10, you have the Hero 8, for example. Here's one of my old cameras here. This weighs about 129 grams, so, it's about the same weight as the 11, but it's got that wider profile again, so for more drag. And then you have other options like the Bones 10. They don't have a Bones 11 yet, but maybe they'll make one later. I don't know. But if you don't need the specific features of the Hero 11, like the 8x7 or the Hyperview, the 10 is definitely good enough for most people. And of course, you can go all the way to a super expensive option like this. This is a Hero 11 Naked, stripped down 11 from Flywoo. You can get this custom built by them. They basically buy a Hero 11 and basically take the components out, the main board and the camera, the lens module. So basically get rid of the case and the screen and the battery, and you end up with something like this is about 40 something grams. But at an extraordinary cost. This costs $600. So, yeah, it's pretty expensive. But there's options for everybody out there. And if you don't really care about the smaller size and you want the photo features, then go for the full size 11. But if you prefer a little bit lighter package than this 11, I personally think a lot of people are going to go for the Mini versus the full size if you are flying drones and don't really care about the screens as much. I mean, it's kind of no point. Plus, right now, if you get it through the GoPro subscription, it's $299 versus $349 for the 11. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't know if you guys think that the people should be going for the full-size 11 over the Mini, assuming that they don't have any other options or cameras. Let me know what your reasoning is in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what you have to say about that. Anyway, I've got other videos here on that I've done previously. I did the video on the Flywoo Naked Hero 10. And obviously the 11 is the same thing. It's in the same case, just the parts from the 11, not the 10. So I'll link that video in the description as well. And it also did a video on the Bones as well. So I'll link that as well in the description. But I think it's going to cover for this one. Obviously, if I missed anything important, let me know in the comments below. If you think that I need to cover some more things in more detail, I might do that in a later video. So please be specific about what your request is in the comments. If it's kind of vague or I don't understand it, I'm probably not going to make any kind of video. I need to have a little bit more specific feedback if you are looking for more content about this. Obviously, probably going to see more footage from this in future videos. So, if that's what you're looking for, just subscribe to the channel, and, whenever I use this camera on a drone review, for example, I'll point out that I'm using this camera. You'll see that footage in there. And if there's anything that I've already recorded, I'll link that also in the video description. I'll upload that, and you can take a look at some of that footage if you want to see some additional footage. Anyway, I think that'll cover for this video. Hopefully it covers all your questions regarding the Hero 11 versus the 11 Mini. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.